She became the billionaire's surrogate for money. But he gave her a love no money could buy. Sharon's hands trembled as she signed the contract that would change everything. $50,000 to carry a stranger's child. $50,000 to save her dying mother. She thought it would be simple. 9 months, hand over the baby, walk away. But when billionaire Brandon Irwin walked into that clinic with his ocean blue eyes and devastating smile, she had no idea she was signing up for something far more dangerous than pregnancy. She was signing up to fall in love with a man she could never have. A man whose world was so far from hers, they might as well be living on different planets. And the baby growing inside her? It wasn't just his future heir. It was about to become the bridge between two hearts that should never have met, and the bomb that could destroy them both. If you're new here, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And to my returning viewers, thank you for coming back. You know, I always deliver the stories that make you feel something real. Trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end of this one. This isn't just a love story. This is about sacrifice, secrets, and a love so powerful it defies every rule. Now let me take you back to where it all began, to the moment Sharon's world fell apart. The fluorescent lights of County General Hospital buzzed overhead like angry insects. Sharon F. Mooneyham, 34 years old and running on her third consecutive shift as a pediatric nurse, barely noticed anymore. What she did notice was the stack of medical bills stuffed in her locker, each one stamped in aggressive red. Final notice. Her mother had 3 months. Maybe 4 if they were lucky. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer didn't negotiate, didn't care that Sharon had already sold her car, maxed out her credit cards, and picked up every extra shift the hospital would give her. The experimental treatment that could buy her mother more time, real time, quality time, cost more than Sharon would make in 2 years. "Sharon, you look like death warmed over," her colleague Maya said, pressing a coffee into her hands. "When's the last time you slept?" "Sleep is for people without dying mothers," Sharon muttered, gulping the bitter liquid. Her phone buzzed. Another text from the billing department. Another reminder that hope had a price tag she couldn't afford. That's when Maya leaned in close, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I know someone who might be able to help. It's unconventional, but it pays really well." Sharon's dark brown eyes narrowed. "I'm not doing anything illegal." "It's not illegal. It's just private, discreet." Maya pulled out a business card with embossed gold lettering. "Legacy Surrogacy Services. They connect women with families who need help. The compensation is substantial." Sharon stared at the card. She'd heard of surrogacy, of course. Never thought she'd be desperate enough to consider it. How substantial? 50,000. Plus all medical expenses covered. The number hit Sharon like a physical blow. $50,000. It was exactly what she needed for her mother's treatment. Exactly what stood between her mother's death sentence and a fighting chance. 50,000 to carry someone else's baby? Sharon's voice was barely a whisper. Maya nodded. 9 months of your life, Sharon. 9 months to save your mother's life. What would you give for that? What would you do? If it was your mother, your family, would you make this choice? Drop a comment and let me know. I want to hear your thoughts. That night, Sharon sat in her mother's hospital room, holding her fragile hand. Clara Mooneyham had been a force of nature once, a high school principal who'd raised Sharon alone after her father left when she was 6. Now she looked so small in that hospital bed, her brown skin ashen, her natural hair wrapped in a colorful scarf that couldn't hide how sick she was. "Ma, I need to talk to you about something," Sharon began. Clara's eyes opened slowly. Even through the pain medication, her gaze was sharp. "You got that look. That, I'm about to do something my mama won't like, look." Despite everything, Sharon smiled. Her mother always could read her. "There's a treatment. Experimental, but the trial results are promising." "Baby, we've talked about this. I'm at peace." "Well, I'm not." Sharon's voice cracked. "Ma, You're only 62. That's too young. I'm not ready to lose you. Sharon. Her mother's grip tightened with surprising strength. Where would you even get that kind of money? Sharon took a deep breath. I found a way. A legal way. I'm going to be a surrogate. The silence stretched between them like a canyon. You're going to carry a baby? 4 strangers. Clara's voice was carefully neutral, the way it got when she was processing something big. For $50,000, Ma. Exactly what we need. Plus all medical costs covered. I've already called them. I have an appointment tomorrow. Clara studied her daughter's face for a long moment. You sure about this, baby? Carrying a child, that's not something small. That's 9 months of your body, your life. And then you have to give that baby away. I can do it, Sharon said with more confidence than she felt. I'm strong. You made me strong. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. Yes, I did. Maybe too strong for your own good sometimes. The next morning, Sharon stood outside a gleaming office building in the wealthiest part of the city, feeling entirely out of place in her 3-year-old interview suit. Legacy Surrogacy Services occupied the entire 15th floor, all marble and soft lighting and the kind of quiet that only serious money could buy. Ms. Mooneyham? A woman in an immaculate navy suit greeted her. I'm Diane Foster, Director of Client Relations. Thank you for coming in. Sharon followed her into a consultation room that looked more like a luxury hotel suite than a medical office. I've reviewed your application, Diane continued. You're an excellent candidate. 34, healthy, no complications with previous pregnancies. I haven't had any previous pregnancies, Sharon interrupted. Exactly. Clean medical history, physically fit, no genetic red flags. And you're a pediatric nurse, which speaks to your character and your comfort with children. Diane slid a folder across the table. I have a client who would be perfect for you. Or rather, you'd be perfect for him. Him. Sharon frowned. I thought surrogacy was usually for couples who can't conceive. Usually, yes. But this client is a single father by choice. Extremely successful, financially stable, impeccable background check. He's been searching for the right surrogate for over a year. Diane opened the folder. He's willing to offer $75,000. Sharon's heart nearly stopped. 75. He's very particular about who carries his child. And he's willing to pay premium rates for the right person. Diane's eyes met Sharon's. That's you, Ms. Mooneyham. Your medical background, your character, your situation. It all makes you ideal. There's just one condition. Sharon's guard went up. What condition? He wants to meet you first. Before any contracts are signed, before any procedures begin. He wants to know the woman who'll carry his child. That's not standard, is it? No, Diane admitted. But Mr. Irwin isn't a standard client. Let's just say he's used to getting exactly what he wants. The question is, are you comfortable with that? Here's where I need your opinion. Should Sharon have walked away right then? Was this already too personal, too complicated? Tell me what you think. Sharon thought about her mother's tired eyes, the stack of bills, the ticking clock. When does he want to meet? Tomorrow. 2 o'clock. His office. Diane slid another card across the table. Sharon picked it up and her breath caught. The address was the Irwin Tower, the gleaming steel and glass monument that dominated the city skyline. Everyone knew the Irwin name. Brandon J. Irwin was a legend in the business world, a self-made billionaire who'd built a tech empire before he was 35. Now 38, he was a fixture in magazines and business journals, always photographed at charity galas with beautiful women on his arm, always smiling that confident smile of someone who'd never heard the word no. He's Brandon Irwin? The Brandon Irwin. Diane's smile was knowing. I told you he was successful. Do we have a meeting tomorrow? Sharon's mind raced. This was insane. Completely insane. Carrying a baby for a billionaire she'd only seen in magazines and news articles? But $75,000. Yes, Sharon heard herself say. 2 o'clock. I'll be there. The next day, Sharon stood in front of Irwin Tower wearing her best dress, which still wasn't nearly nice enough for this building. The lobby alone probably cost more than her entire apartment complex. She gave her name to security, received a visitor badge, and was escorted to a private elevator that required a special key card. The doors opened directly into a penthouse office that was more art gallery than workspace. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the entire city. Original paintings lined the walls. And behind a massive desk sat Brandon J. Irwin. The photographs hadn't done him justice. He was tall, she could tell even though he was sitting, with dark brown hair that looked artfully disheveled, as if he'd run his hands through it recently. His suit probably cost more than her nursing school tuition. But it was his eyes that caught her. Blue-gray, intense, intelligent, and currently studying her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Ms. Mooneyham," he said, standing and extending his hand. His voice was deeper than she'd expected, with a warmth that contradicted the cold perfection of his office. "Thank you for coming. Please, sit." Sharon shook his hand. His grip was firm, confident, and sat in the chair across from his desk, trying not to show how nervous she was. "I'm sure Diane told you I prefer to meet potential surrogates personally," Brandon said, settling back into his chair. "I know it's unconventional, but this is my child we're talking about. I want to know who's carrying them." "I understand," Sharon said, proud that her voice didn't shake. "I'd want the same thing." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe? "Tell me about yourself. The real stuff, not what's in the file Diane gave me." Sharon hadn't expected that. "What do you want to know?" "Why surrogacy? A woman with your credentials, your career, you could find other ways to make money. So why this?" There was no judgment in his tone, just genuine curiosity. Sharon made a split-second decision to be honest. "My mother is dying. Pancreatic cancer. There's an experimental treatment that might help, but insurance won't cover it. I need $75,000 to give her a chance at more time." Brandon was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry about your mother. That's a hell of a thing to face." "Thank you." Sharon met his gaze steadily. "I'm not going into this lightly, Mr. Irwin. I'm a nurse. I understand the physical and emotional toll of pregnancy. But I also understand that 9 months of my life could give my mother years of hers. That's a trade I'm willing to make." "Brandon," he said suddenly. "Excuse me. Call me Brandon. If you're going to carry my child, we should probably be on a first-name basis." That devastating smile appeared. "Don't you think, Sharon?" The way he said her name sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. She pushed it away. This was business. Just business. "Brandon," she repeated. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything. Why do you want a child? And why this way?" His expression shifted, became more guarded. "That's a complicated question." "We have time." Brandon stood and walked to the windows, his hands in his pockets, his back to her. "I'm 38 years old. I've built a company worth billions. I have everything money can buy. But I don't have family. My parents died in a car accident when I was 23. I was an only child. I've dated, but I've never found." He trailed off, then turned to face her. "I want a child, Sharon. Someone to build a life for, to leave a legacy to. Someone to love. And I don't want to wait to find the perfect relationship that might never come." Does that make sense? It did. More than Sharon wanted to admit. "Yes," she said softly. "It makes perfect sense." Their eyes met across the office, and for a moment, something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Two lonely people trying to fill different voids in different ways. Brandon cleared his throat and returned to his desk. I should tell you, I've been searching for the right surrogate for over a year. I've met with dozens of candidates. You're the first one who feels right. Why me? You're direct. Honest. You're not doing this for attention or because you think it'll connect you to my money or my world. You're doing it for the same reason I'm doing it, because you want to give someone more time. Your mother. My future child. That kind of motivation, that kind of love, that's what I want for my kids beginning. Sharon felt tears prick her eyes and blinked them back. So what happens now? Now, you take this home. He slid a thick folder across the desk. It's the contract. Read every word. Have a lawyer look at it. I'll pay for one if you need. Make sure you understand everything you're agreeing to. And if you still want to do this. He pulled out a pen and set it beside the folder. Come back tomorrow, and we'll make it official. Sharon picked up the folder. It was heavy with papers, with choices, with the weight of the next 9 months. I'll read it tonight. Sharon. Brandon's voice stopped her at the door. Thank you. For considering this. For being brave enough to even walk through that door. She turned back. Thank you for giving me a chance to save my mother. His smile was sad and understanding. We're both trying to save someone we love. Maybe that makes us both a little crazy. Maybe, Sharon agreed. Or maybe it just makes us human. Sharon didn't sleep that night. She read every single page of the contract at her mother's bedside, making notes, circling questions, trying to understand the legal language that would govern the next 9 months of her life. The terms were straightforward on the surface. Sharon would undergo IVF using Brandon's sperm and a donor egg. She'd carry the pregnancy to term. All medical expenses covered, plus the $75,000 compensation, $25,000 at signing, $25,000 at 20 weeks, and $25,000 at delivery. After birth, she'd relinquish all parental rights. Clean. Simple. Transactional. But buried in the clauses were details that made it more complicated. Brandon required regular updates on the pregnancy. Monthly meetings to discuss the baby's development. He wanted to be involved, not controlling. The contract was careful to specify, but present. He wanted to know his child from the beginning, even if that beginning was happening inside someone else's body. That's not standard surrogacy, Clara murmured, reading over Sharon's shoulder. Usually they keep it more distant. Medical updates, sure. But monthly meetings? That's personal, baby. I know. Sharon chewed her lip. It makes it more complicated. Does it change your mind? Sharon thought about Brandon's words. Someone to love. The loneliness she'd heard beneath the confidence. The way his eyes had softened when she'd told him about her mother. No, she said finally. If anything, it makes me more sure. He's not treating this like buying a product. He's treating it like the beginning of a relationship with his child. That's good, isn't it? Clara squeezed her hand. Just promise me you'll protect your heart, baby. Men like that, men with that much money, that much power, they live in a different world. Don't mistake business for something more. I won't, Ma. I promise. This is just a job. A very well-paying job that's going to save your life. But even as she said it, Sharon remembered the way Brandon had looked at her. The connection she'd felt in that office. And she wondered if she was lying to her mother, or to herself. The next morning, Sharon returned to Irwin Tower with the signed contract. This time, she wasn't nervous. She'd made her choice. She was going to save her mother, and she was going to help Brandon become a father. Everything else was just details. Diane met her in the lobby with a bright smile. Mr. Irwin is waiting for you. But first, we need to go over the medical protocols. The next hour was a blur of information. Dr. Sarah Chen, the fertility specialist, explained the IVF process in detail. The hormone treatments Sharon would need to prepare her body. the implantation procedure, the early monitoring to confirm pregnancy, the potential risks and complications. Any questions? Dr. Chen asked. Sharon had 1,000, but she settled for the most important one. What are the success rates? With your age and health profile? About 65% chance of pregnancy on the first attempt. If that doesn't take, we try again. Most of our surrogates achieve pregnancy within 3 cycles. 3 cycles. 3 months of uncertainty, of hormone treatments, of hope and potential disappointment. Sharon pushed the doubt away. It would work. It had to. Finally, Diane led her back up to Brandon's office. He was standing by the windows again, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid-fire business language that Sharon only half understood. When he saw her, he wrapped up the call immediately. Sharon, you're back. Was that relief in his voice? Did you sign? She held up the contract. All 23 pages. His smile was brilliant. You counted. I'm thorough. She handed him the folder. Your lawyer can review it, make sure everything's in order. Brandon took the contract but didn't look at it. He was looking at her instead, with an intensity that made her breath catch. This is really happening. We're really doing this. We're really doing this, Sharon confirmed. He set the contract on his desk and extended his hand. Partners. Sharon shook it, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers. Partners. Good. Then let's celebrate. Have dinner with me. Sharon blinked. Dinner. We're going to be in each other's lives for the next 9 months at least. Probably longer, given that I'll want you to be part of my child's life if you're willing. We should get to know each other beyond contracts and medical procedures. He tilted his head. Unless you have other plans? She did. She had a shift at the hospital in 3 hours. But something in his expression, hope mixed with loneliness, made her lie. No plans. Dinner sounds nice. What do you think? Is Sharon making a mistake getting personally involved? Or is this exactly what both of them need? Drop your thoughts below. Brandon took her to a restaurant Sharon had only read about in magazines, the kind of place where reservations took months and the prices weren't even listed on the menu. She felt underdressed in her simple work clothes, but Brandon didn't seem to notice. Or if he did, he didn't care. I hope you like Italian, he said as they were seated at a private table overlooking the city. This place has the best carbonara outside of Rome. I've never been to Rome, Sharon admitted. Never been outside the country, actually. No. Brandon looked genuinely surprised. Where would you go? If you could go anywhere. Sharon considered. My mother always wanted to see Paris. She taught French for years before she became principal. She said the language was beautiful, but you couldn't really understand it until you heard it spoken in the streets of Paris, with the accent and the music of the city behind it. Then you should take her, Brandon said simply. After the treatment. When she's stronger. Take her to Paris. With what money? Sharon laughed, but there was no humor in it. The $75,000 is going straight to medical bills. Brandon was quiet for a moment. What if I doubled it? Sharon froze. What? 150,000. 75 for the treatment, 75 for you. For Paris, or whatever you want. Brandon, no. That's too much. It's not about the money, Sharon. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. What I don't have is someone willing to give me the greatest gift imaginable. He leaned forward. You're giving me a child. A family. How do you put a price on that? Sharon's throat was tight. The contract can be amended. I'll have my lawyer draw up new terms tomorrow. He reached across the table, not quite touching her hand, but close enough that she could feel the warmth of his skin. Let me do this, please. Let me help your mother the way you're helping me. She should say no. She should maintain boundaries, keep this professional, remember her mother's warning about men like Brandon and their different world. But his eyes were so sincere, so full of genuine desire to help, that she found herself nodding. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. His smile transformed his face. Now that that's settled, tell me about you. Real stuff. What do you do when you're not being a superhero nurse saving sick kids? Superhero nurse. Sharon laughed, the tension breaking. Is that what we're calling it? Isn't it? You literally help save children's lives for a living. Sounds pretty heroic to me. It's just a job. No, Brandon said firmly. It's not. I've built apps and technology that have made billions. But at the end of the day, I'm just making rich people richer and making life slightly more convenient. You hold parents' hands while their child fights for life. You give hope when there's none left. That's not just a job. That's a calling. Sharon had never thought of it that way. When you put it like that. I'm right, aren't I? He grinned. I'm usually right. Confident much? Always. He took a sip of wine. But seriously, what do you do for fun? Hobbies? Interests? Help me know the woman who's going to be mother to my child, even if it's temporary. Mother to his child. The word sent a strange flutter through Sharon's chest. I don't have much time for hobbies. Between work and taking care of Ma. But I used to paint. Watercolors. Before everything got so complicated. What did you paint? Landscapes, mostly. Places I'd seen or imagined. My mother has a few pieces hanging in her apartment. They're not very good. I bet they're beautiful, Brandon interrupted. You should paint again. After the pregnancy. When things calm down. Maybe, Sharon said, though she couldn't imagine when she'd have time. The food arrived. He was right, the carbonara was incredible, and they ate and talked. About everything and nothing. Brandon told her about building his company from nothing, the all-nighters and failures and tiny victories that eventually became something huge. Sharon told him about nursing school, the first time she'd helped save a child's life, the weight of that responsibility. Hours passed without either of them noticing. The restaurant began to empty, and still they sat there, talking like old friends instead of two strangers bound by a surrogacy contract. I should go, Sharon finally said, glancing at her phone. I have an early shift tomorrow. Let me drive you. You don't have to. Sharon. He was already standing, pulling out her chair. You're carrying my future child. The least I can do is make sure you get home safely. His car was exactly what she expected. Sleek, expensive, probably worth more than her entire life savings. But Brandon drove carefully, responsibly, nothing like the reckless rich guy stereotype. This is me, Sharon said when they pulled up to her modest apartment building. It looked especially shabby next to his luxury car. Brandon didn't seem to notice. Thank you for dinner. I know I kind of ambushed you with that, but I'm glad you came. Me too, Sharon admitted. And she meant it. He walked her to her door, hands in his pockets, looking almost shy. So, Dr. Chen will call you next week to schedule the first treatment cycle. And I'll have the amended contract ready in a few days. But if you need anything before then, anything at all, you have my number. I do, Sharon confirmed, key in the lock. Sharon. His voice made her turn back. I know this is unconventional. All of it. But I think we're going to make a good team. Yeah, she said softly. I think so too. She watched him walk back to his car, this billionaire who'd just offered to double her payment, who'd spent 3 hours talking to her like she mattered, who was trusting her with his greatest hope. And Clara's warning echoed in her head, don't mistake business for something more. But as Sharon got ready for bed that night, she couldn't shake the feeling that it was already too late for that warning. Something had shifted during dinner. Something that had nothing to do with contracts or money, and everything to do with the way Brandon had looked at her when she laughed, the genuine interest in his questions, the vulnerability behind his confidence. This was supposed to be simple. Carry a baby, save her mother, walk away. But nothing about Brandon J. Irwin was simple. And Sharon was starting to realize she was in way over her head. The hormone treatments started a week later. Dr. Chen had warned Sharon about the side effects, mood swings, bloating, fatigue, but knowing about them didn't make experiencing them any easier. I feel like a crazy person, Sharon groaned to Maya during their lunch break. Yesterday I cried because my toast was slightly too dark. Toast, Maya. I cried over bread. Maya laughed. Welcome to artificial pregnancy hormones. It only gets better from here. That's not encouraging. Not supposed to be. It's supposed to be honest. Maya stole a fry from Sharon's plate. How's Mr. Billionaire handling all this? Brandon, Sharon corrected automatically. And I don't know. I haven't seen him since we signed the amended contract. That wasn't entirely true. Brandon had texted her every day, asking how she was feeling, if she needed anything, making sure she was taking her medications on schedule. His attention was thoughtful without being overwhelming, present without being invasive. But Sharon missed seeing him. Which was ridiculous. They'd had one dinner. They barely knew each other. And yet, her phone buzzed. As if he could sense her thinking about him, Brandon's name appeared on the screen. Brandon, Dr. Chen says we're on track for implantation next week. How are you feeling? Sharon, like a hormonal mess. But good. Ready. Brandon, want to grab coffee? I could use a break from meetings and you probably could use a break from saving lives. Sharon glanced at the clock. She had an hour left on her break. Sharon, Memorial Park in 20 minutes? Brandon, perfect. I'll bring the coffee. Well, Maya said, reading over Sharon's shoulder. Mr. Billionaire wants coffee. That's not very professional surrogate client behavior. We're partners, Sharon said defensively. We should spend time together before the pregnancy. Aha. Partners. Is that what we're calling it? Maya. I'm just saying, honey. The way you light up when his name appears on your phone? That's not a business transaction. That's something else entirely. Sharon wanted to argue, but she couldn't. Because Maya was right. Every text from Brandon made her heart do a little flip. Every conversation left her wanting more. This wasn't professional anymore. And she had no idea what to do about it. Brandon was already waiting when Sharon arrived at the park, 2 coffee cups in hand and that smile that always made her forget why she should be keeping her distance. Caramel latte, light foam, extra shot, he said, handing her the cup. I remembered. You remembered my coffee order from one dinner? I remember everything about you, he said simply, and there was something in his eyes that made Sharon's breath catch. They walked in silence for a few minutes, sipping their coffee, watching joggers and dog walkers and people enjoying the unseasonably warm November day. Nervous? Brandon asked finally. About next week? Terrified, Sharon admitted. What if it doesn't take? What if my body rejects the embryo? What if? Hey. He stopped walking and turned to face her. It's going to work. I know it is. You can't know that. No, but I can believe it. And I can believe in you. His hand reached up, almost touching her face, before he seemed to remember himself and dropped it. You're the strongest person I've ever met, Sharon. If anyone can do this, it's you. How many of you have felt this way? That moment when someone believes in you more than you believe in yourself? That's powerful, right? Tell me about it in the comments. Thank you, Sharon whispered. For believing in me. For all of this. I should be thanking you. Brandon's voice was rough. You have no idea what this means to me. They started walking again, but something had shifted between them. The air felt heavier, charged with words neither of them was brave enough to say. Tell me about your company, Sharon said, desperate to break the tension. You've built this huge empire, but what actually drives you? What gets you out of bed every morning? Brandon considered the question. Honestly, for a long time, it was just more. More success, more money, more proof that I'd made something of myself. But lately, he trailed off. Lately I've been wondering what it's all for. I have more money than I'll ever spend. I've accomplished everything I set out to do before I was 30. And I look around my penthouse apartment and it's just empty. Beautiful and expensive and completely empty. Sharon understood that emptiness more than she wanted to admit. Is that why you want a child? Partly. But it's more than that. I want to build something that matters. Not a company or a technology or a bank account. I want to build a family. A legacy. Something that outlives me and actually means something. He looked at her. Does that sound crazy? No. It sounds human. They found a bench overlooking the pond and sat, shoulders almost touching, comfortable in a way that should have been impossible for two people who'd known each other less than a month. What about you? Brandon asked. What drives Sharon Mooneyham? Right now. Saving my mother. But before all this, Sharon thought back to the person she'd been before the diagnosis, before the bills, before the desperation. I wanted to make a difference. To be the kind of nurse that kids remembered years later, the one who made the hospital less scary, who made them feel brave. I bet you are that nurse. I try. Sharon smiled. There's this one kid, Jeremy. 7 years old, been fighting leukemia for 2 years. Every time he comes in for treatment, he asks for me specifically. Says I make the best paper airplanes in the whole hospital. Do you? Absolutely. I have an engineering degree in paper aviation. She laughed at his surprised expression. I'm joking. But I did spend an embarrassing amount of time on YouTube learning how to make really good ones. Because if folding paper can make a sick kid smile for 5 minutes, then it's worth it. Brandon's expression was soft, almost tender. See. Superhero nurse. I told you. The week passed in a blur of final preparations, medical appointments, and increasingly frequent texts from Brandon. Sharon told herself it was just him being invested in the process, being a good partner. But late at night, reading his messages about random things, funny moments from his day, questions about her shift, observations about the city, she knew it was more than that. The day of the implantation procedure, Brandon insisted on driving Sharon to the clinic. She'd argued that it wasn't necessary, that she could take the bus, but he'd shown up at her apartment anyway. You're not taking the bus to the most important medical procedure of your life, he'd said firmly. End of discussion. Now they sat in the waiting room, Sharon in a hospital gown, Brandon beside her in his designer suit looking wildly out of place among the medical equipment and sterile walls. Mr. Irwin, the nurse called. You can come back to observe if you'd like. Brandon looked at Sharon, asking permission. It's your baby, she said softly. You should be there from the beginning. The procedure itself was quick, clinical, nothing like the emotional weight of the moment. Dr. Chen inserted the embryo, Brandon and the donor egg, now combined into the beginning of a life, and that was it. Done. Now they waited. Okay, Sharon, Dr. Chen said. You need to lie still for about 30 minutes. Let everything settle. Then you can get dressed and go home. We'll do a blood test in 10 days to confirm pregnancy. The doctor and nurses left, and it was just Sharon and Brandon in the quiet room. She was acutely aware of lying on an examination table in a thin gown with this man she barely knew but somehow felt closer to than people she'd known for years. How do you feel? Brandon asked, pulling a chair close to the table. Weird. Like something huge just happened, but it doesn't feel huge yet. She laughed nervously. Sorry, that doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense. He reached out and took her hand, his thumb brushing gently over her knuckles. Thank you. For doing this. For being here. For being you. Sharon's heart hammered. She should pull her hand away. This was too intimate, too personal. But she couldn't make herself do it. Brandon, I know, he interrupted softly. I know this is supposed to be business. Professional. But Sharon, from the moment you walked into my office with that fierce look in your eyes, telling me about saving your mother, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. You shouldn't say things like that, Sharon whispered, even as her fingers tightened around his. Why not? Because it's complicated? Because it doesn't fit into our neat little contract. He leaned closer. I can't help how I feel. Brandon, I'm carrying your baby. We can't. I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I just needed you to know that you're not just the woman carrying my child. You're Sharon. And you're extraordinary. Sharon's eyes burned with tears. Everything she'd been trying to deny, trying to push away, came flooding back. The way her heart raced when she saw him. The way she checked her phone constantly hoping for his texts. The way she felt complete when they were together and hollow when they were apart. This is a terrible idea, she said, even as she held onto his hand like a lifeline. Probably the worst I've ever had, Brandon agreed. But I don't care. They stayed like that for the full 30 minutes, hands clasped, eyes locked, neither saying what they were both thinking, that they'd crossed a line that was supposed to stay firmly in place. That whatever happened in 10 days when they found out if the procedure worked, nothing between them would ever be simple again. What would you do in Sharon's position? Would you walk away now before it gets more complicated? Or is it already too late? I need to know what you're thinking. The longest 10 days of Sharon's life began the moment she left that clinic. Dr. Chen had been clear, no strenuous activity, plenty of rest, take the progesterone supplements, and try not to stress. The last part was impossible. Every twinge in her abdomen, every moment of fatigue, every tiny sensation made Sharon wonder, was it working? Was there a life beginning inside her? Or was her body already rejecting the embryo? Brandon texted her constantly. Morning check-ins. Afternoon distractions. Evening conversations that stretched long into the night. He sent her flowers, not roses, which would have been too obviously romantic, but cheerful sunflowers that made her apartment feel less lonely. He had meals delivered from her favorite restaurants because she mentioned she was too tired to cook. He's courting you, Clara observed from her hospital bed, where Sharon had been updating her on everything. The experimental treatment was working. Slowly, carefully, but working. Her mother had more energy, more hope, more life in her eyes. He's being supportive, Sharon corrected. Baby, I may be sick, but I'm not blind. That man is courting you, and you're letting him. Sharon couldn't argue because it was true. Every text, every gesture, every moment of attention was Brandon breaking down the walls she'd built around her heart. Ma, I don't know what to do. This was supposed to be simple. Business. But it's not simple anymore. Does he make you happy? Yes, Sharon admitted. He makes me feel seen. Like I'm not just the nurse, not just the daughter taking care of her sick mother, not just the woman desperate enough to be a surrogate. He sees me. Clara was quiet for a moment. Then maybe stop fighting it so hard. Life's too short, baby. Trust me, I know. If you found someone who sees you, who makes you happy, maybe that's worth taking a risk for. But what about after? I'm carrying his baby, Ma. His baby. What happens when the baby is born and I have to give it up? How do I walk away from both of them? Maybe you don't, Clara said gently. Maybe this story has a different ending than you thought. On day 8, Sharon woke up feeling nauseous. She barely made it to the bathroom before she was sick. Her hands shook as she gripped the sink, staring at her pale reflection. Nausea. Morning sickness. It could mean. She grabbed her phone and texted Brandon before she could think better of it. Sharon, I'm sick. Throwing up. I know it's probably too early, but what if it means? Her phone rang immediately. Sharon. Are you okay? Brandon's voice was urgent. I'm fine. Morning sickness is a pregnancy symptom, right? Yes. She could hear the smile in his voice. Yes, it definitely is. But it could also just be the hormones from the progesterone. Or stress. Or bad tacos. I didn't eat tacos. Then probably not that last one. His voice softened. 2 more days, Sharon. We'll know in 2 more days. Can you make it? I don't know. This waiting is killing me. Want company? I can be there in 20 minutes. Sharon looked at her messy apartment, her even messier hair, her complete lack of makeup. I look terrible. I doubt that. But I won't come if you don't want me to. She did want him to. Desperately. Which should have been a red flag, but instead felt like permission. Okay. But I'm warning you, I'm not at my best. Sharon, you're always at your best. See you soon. 23 minutes later, she'd timed it. Brandon knocked on her door. When Sharon opened it, he held up a bag from the pharmacy and a ginger ale. Ginger helps with nausea, he explained, brushing past her into the apartment. And I got you some crackers, peppermint tea, and those pressure point wristbands that are supposed to help. Sharon stared at the supplies he was unpacking onto her tiny kitchen counter. You went to a pharmacy? Is that so surprising? Billionaires don't usually make pharmacy runs. This one does. He turned to face her, and his expression was so open, so genuine, that Sharon's chest ached. Especially when it's for you. They spent the day on her couch, watching mindless TV shows and eating saltine crackers. Brandon worked from his laptop while Sharon dozed on and off, exhausted from the hormones and stress. Every time she woke up, he was there, working quietly, checking his emails, occasionally reaching over to make sure she was comfortable. You don't have to stay, Sharon murmured during one of her wake-ups. I know you have important CEO stuff to do. Nothing's more important than this, Brandon said simply. Than you. Sharon's heart clenched. Brandon. I know I should keep my distance, be professional, treat this like the business arrangement it is. He closed his laptop and shifted to face her fully. But I can't. I've tried. Every logical part of my brain says I should walk away, give you space, let you do this job without complications. Then why don't you? Because every other part of me, the part that's not logical, the part that just feels, that part won't let me walk away from you. Sharon sat up, suddenly very awake despite the exhaustion. This is a bad idea. Terrible, Brandon agreed. We have a contract. Professional boundaries. 9 months of pregnancy ahead of us. I know. And I'm carrying your baby, Brandon. Your baby. That's not exactly simple. I know that too. He moved closer, close enough that Sharon could see the flecks of gray in his blue eyes, could feel the warmth radiating from his body. But knowing something should be simple doesn't change how I feel. It doesn't change the fact that I think about you constantly. That I want to be wherever you are. That the idea of you being uncomfortable or scared or going through this alone makes me physically ache. Brandon, Sharon breathed, her resolve crumbling with every word. Tell me I'm alone in this, he said quietly. Tell me you don't feel it too, and I'll walk away. I'll be the professional, distant client you need me to be. But if there's even a chance that you feel even a fraction of what I'm feeling. Sharon should lie. She should protect herself, protect both of them from the inevitable complications. But Clara's words echoed in her head. Life's too short. If you found someone who sees you, maybe that's worth taking a risk for. You're not alone, Sharon whispered. I feel it too. I've tried not to, tried to be professional and smart and rational. But every text from you makes my heart race. Every time I see you, I feel more alive than I have in years. And it terrifies me. Why? Because I don't know how this ends. Because in 9 months, I'm supposed to hand you a baby and walk away. Because your world and mine are so different, Brandon. You live in penthouses and drive cars worth more than my annual salary. I live in this apartment with water stains on the ceiling and furniture from thrift stores. How does this work? Brandon took her hands in his. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. But Sharon, I've spent my entire adult life building a fortune, creating success, living in that world you're talking about. And you know what? It's empty. Completely empty. But when I'm with you, when we're talking about nothing important, or you're teaching me about how you fold paper airplanes, or you're just existing in the same space as me, that's when I feel full. That's when everything makes sense. Tears slipped down Sharon's cheeks. This is crazy. I know. We barely know each other. I know that too. And there's a very good chance I'm pregnant with your baby right now. God, I hope so. Brandon's smile was soft, hopeful, devastating. But Sharon, even if the procedure didn't work, even if we have to try again, I still want to be here. Not because of the baby. Because of you. Sharon knew she should resist. Should be smart. Should protect her heart. But she was so tired of being careful, of doing the right thing, of putting everyone else first and leaving nothing for herself. So instead of pushing him away, she leaned forward and kissed him. It was soft, tentative, questioning. Brandon froze for a heartbeat, then his hand came up to cup her face, and he kissed her back with a tenderness that made Sharon's entire body sing. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Sharon laughed shakily. That was definitely not in the contract. We should probably amend it, Brandon murmured, his forehead resting against hers. Probably. Sharon closed her eyes. What are we doing? I have no idea. But I don't want to stop. Me neither. They stayed like that, wrapped up in each other on Sharon's worn couch, while the afternoon light faded and the world outside continued on without them. And for the first time since her mother's diagnosis, since the desperate decision to become a surrogate, since the moment she'd walked into Brandon's office, Sharon felt at peace. The blood test confirmed what Sharon's body had already told her: she was pregnant. Dr. Chen delivered the news with a professional smile, but Sharon could barely hear the instructions about prenatal vitamins and follow-up appointments over the roaring in her ears. Pregnant. She was actually pregnant. With Brandon's baby. Brandon, who'd kissed her 2 days ago and hadn't stopped texting since. Brandon, who was waiting in the clinic lobby right now because he'd insisted on being there when she got the results. Congratulations, Dr. Chen said warmly. Based on your hormone levels, everything looks very healthy. We'll do an ultrasound in a few weeks to confirm the heartbeat, but for now, you're officially pregnant. Sharon walked out to the lobby on shaky legs. Brandon stood up the moment he saw her, his expression anxious and hopeful and terrified all at once. She nodded. His face transformed. Pure joy, brighter than anything she'd ever seen. Really? Really? I'm pregnant. Brandon crossed the lobby in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around right there in the middle of the fertility clinic. Sharon laughed, dizzy with relief and happiness and terror. We're having a baby, Brandon said against her hair. Sharon, we're having a baby. We. Not, you're carrying my baby, or, this worked. We. Like they were in this together. Like they were a family. How many of you are crying right now? Because I am. This is the moment everything changes. Drop a comment and tell me if you saw this coming. Brandon took her to lunch at a quiet cafe, somewhere away from his usual business haunts where they wouldn't be photographed or interrupted. He ordered her decaf coffee and insisted she eat something protein-rich, already going into protective mode. We need to talk about what happens next, Sharon said, picking at her sandwich. We celebrate. Then we tell your mother. Then we start planning. Brandon. She stopped him gently. We need to talk about us. About what this means. His expression grew serious. Okay. What do you want it to mean? I don't know. The contract says. Forget the contract. Brandon leaned forward. Sharon, I care about you. A lot. And I know this is complicated, and the timing is terrible, and we have 9 months of pregnancy to navigate. But I don't want to pretend there's nothing between us. What if it's just hormones? What if this feeling goes away once the baby is born? Then we deal with it then. But what if it doesn't go away? What if this is real? Sharon wanted to believe it was real. But fear whispered in her ear, reminding her of all the ways this could go wrong. Your world and mine are just geography, Brandon interrupted. Money, status, whatever, those are just circumstances. What matters is this. He reached across the table and took her hand. What we feel, what we're building, that's real. My mother warned me, Sharon said softly. She said not to confuse business with something more. Is that what you think this is? Business? Sharon looked at their joined hands, at Brandon's earnest face, at the way he'd rearranged his entire day to be with her for a 10-minute doctor's appointment. No. This isn't business. Then what is it? Terrifying, Sharon admitted. It's terrifying and wonderful, and I have no idea how we make this work. One day at a time, Brandon said. We take this one day at a time. We're honest with each other. We figure it out as we go. And we trust that if we're both committed to making this work, we can. You make it sound simple. Maybe it is. Maybe we're the ones making it complicated. He squeezed her hand. Sharon, I want to try. With you. With us. Not because of the baby, but because I can't imagine my life without you in it anymore. Can we try? Every rational voice in Sharon's head screamed at her to say no, to protect herself, to keep things professional. But her heart, her stupid, hopeful, terrified heart, was louder. Yes, she whispered. We can try. Brandon's smile was brilliant. Yeah. Sharon laughed, feeling like she'd just jumped off a cliff with no idea where she'd land. But we have to be smart about this. Take it slow. No big declarations or moving in together, or... Brandon kissed her, cutting off her list of sensible boundaries. When he pulled back, they were both grinning like idiots. Sorry, he said, not sounding sorry at all. You were making a list and I got distracted. By what? By how beautiful you look when you're trying to be practical. Sharon rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. We're going to need ground rules. Okay. Rule 1, we're honest with each other, always. No matter how hard it is. Rule 2, we take it slow. No rushing into anything just because there's a baby involved. Rule 3, we protect the baby first, Brandon added seriously. Whatever happens between us, the baby's well-being comes first. Agreed. Sharon thought for a moment. Rule 4, we tell my mother. Soon. Before she hears it from someone else or figures it out herself. Done. Tonight, if you want. I'll bring dinner. They spent the rest of lunch planning, making lists, trying to figure out how to navigate the most complicated situation either of them had ever been in. But beneath the practical concerns, there was something else, hope. Fragile and terrifying, but real. That evening, Brandon showed up at Clara's hospital room with enough Thai food to feed 6 people and a nervous energy that Sharon found endearing. Ma, you remember Brandon, Sharon said as he set up the food on the rolling table. The billionaire baby daddy, Clara said with a smile that was just a little too knowing. Hard to forget. Mrs. Mooneyham. Brandon extended his hand. It's good to see you looking stronger. The treatment's working, thank the Lord. And call me Clara. Mrs. Mooneyham makes me feel old. They ate and made small talk, but Sharon could see her mother watching them, noting every glance they exchanged, every accidentally on purpose touch. Clara didn't miss anything. Finally, Brandon cleared his throat. Clara, Sharon and I have something to tell you. You're pregnant, Clara said immediately. Sharon blinked. How did you? Baby, I know you. And I saw the way you've been glowing for the past 3 days. Clara's expression grew serious. But that's not what y'all really came to tell me, is it? Sharon and Brandon exchanged glances. No, Sharon admitted. Ma, Brandon and we're together. Dating. Whatever you want to call it. Clara was quiet for a long moment. Sharon held her breath, waiting for the warning, the concern, the reminder about different worlds and business arrangements. Instead, her mother smiled. About damn time. What? Sharon gaped. You think I didn't see this coming? The way that man looks at you, baby. Like you hung the moon and stars? The way you light up when he texts. Clara shook her head. I'm sick, not blind. But you warned me, Sharon said. You said to protect my heart. I did. Because that's what mothers do. But Sharon, honey, I also said life's too short to pass up happiness when you find it. Clara reached for Brandon's hand. You love my daughter? Brandon didn't hesitate. Yes, ma'am. I do. And you? Clara turned to Sharon. You love him. Sharon's breath caught. They hadn't said the words yet. Hadn't gone that far. But looking at Brandon, seeing the hope and vulnerability in his eyes, she couldn't lie. Yes, she whispered. I do. Brandon's hand found hers under the table, squeezing tight. Then that's all I need to know, Clara said firmly. Now, let's talk about this baby. When's my grandbaby due? Ma, it's not technically. Don't even finish that sentence, Sharon Marie. You're carrying this baby. You're loving this man. That makes it family, and family is family. Biology is just details. Sharon felt tears prick her eyes. Ma. No crying at the dinner table. We're celebrating. My baby girl is pregnant, in love, and giving me a grandbaby to spoil. That's worth celebrating, don't you think? They stayed for hours, talking about names and nurseries and all the ways Clara planned to be the world's best grandmother. And watching Brandon interact with her mother, gentle and respectful but also genuinely engaged, Sharon felt something settle in her chest. This was real. Complicated and crazy and absolutely real. Later, as Brandon drove her home, Sharon couldn't stop smiling. Your mother is amazing, Brandon said. She is. And she likes you. You think. She called you family, Brandon. That's not something she does lightly. He pulled up to her building and turned off the car, shifting to face her. Sharon, earlier today, when your mother asked if I loved you. You didn't have to say that, Sharon said quickly. I know it was just. I meant it. Brandon's voice was steady, sure. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I love you. I think I started falling the moment you walked into my office with fire in your eyes, ready to do anything to save your mother. And every day since, I've fallen harder. Sharon's hands were shaking. Brandon. You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. Because rule number 1 is honesty, remember? And I can't be anything but honest about this. Tears streamed down Sharon's face. I love you too. God help me, I love you too. Brandon pulled her into his arms, holding her close while she cried happy, terrified tears into his expensive suit jacket. We're going to make this work, he murmured. All of it. The pregnancy, the relationship, the future. We're going to figure it out together. Promise. Promise. And sitting in that car outside her shabby apartment building, Sharon believed him. Against all logic and reason, she believed in them. The first trimester was hell. Morning sickness struck with a vengeance, turning Sharon's carefully ordered life into chaos. She couldn't keep food down. Smells that had never bothered her before, coffee, perfume, the cafeteria at work, sent her running for the bathroom. Exhaustion hit her like a truck, making even simple tasks feel impossible. Brandon was there for all of it. He showed up at her apartment with ginger ale and crackers at 2 in the morning when she texted that she couldn't sleep. He rearranged his schedule so he could drive her to work on days she felt too sick to take the bus. He held her hair when she threw up and never once complained or made her feel weak for struggling. This is not glamorous, Sharon groaned one particularly bad morning, her head in the toilet while Brandon rubbed circles on her back. No one said growing a human was glamorous, he replied calmly. But you're doing it anyway, and that makes you the strongest person I know. I'm literally throwing up. Strength comes in many forms. He handed her a cool washcloth. Come on, let's get you back to bed. You don't have to go to work today. I have to. We're short-staffed. Sharon. Brandon's voice was gentle but firm. You're pregnant and exhausted and sick. You're allowed to take care of yourself. I don't know how, Sharon admitted quietly. That stopped him. What do you mean? I've been taking care of other people my whole life. My patients, my mother, everyone who needs me. I don't know how to put myself first. Brandon pulled her into his arms, and Sharon let herself lean on him, something that was getting easier every day. Then let me take care of you. Just for a little while. Let me be the strong one. You're always the strong one. No, he corrected. I'm good at pretending. But you're actually strong. There's a difference. Sharon called in sick and spent the day curled up in bed while Brandon worked from her apartment, his laptop balanced on his knees, occasionally looking over to make sure she was comfortable. It was domestic and intimate and everything Sharon hadn't known she wanted. What are you thinking about? Brandon asked, catching her watching him. How different my life is from 3 months ago. Good different or bad different? Terrifying different, Sharon said honestly. But also, good. Really good. The first ultrasound happened at 8 weeks. Sharon was a nervous wreck, pacing the waiting room while Brandon tried unsuccessfully to calm her down. What if something's wrong? What if there's no heartbeat? What if? Sharon. Brandon caught her hands, stopping her mid-pace. Whatever happens, we face it together. Okay. Okay, she whispered. Dr. Chen called them back, and Sharon lay on the examination table, Brandon standing beside her, his hand gripping hers tight enough to hurt. The doctor applied gel to Sharon's still flat stomach and moved the ultrasound wand, searching. Then they heard it. Fast and strong and unmistakable. A heartbeat. There's your baby, Dr. Chen said, pointing to the tiny blob on the screen that didn't look anything like a. Eyes twinkled. But for what it's worth, I think it's wonderful. That man loves you something fierce. And you love him right back. I do, Sharon admitted. Ma, I never thought. I mean, when I agreed to be a surrogate, I didn't think I'd fall in love. I didn't think I'd want to be a mother to this baby. But here I am, planning a future I never imagined. That's how life works sometimes, Clara said wisely. We make plans, and God laughs. But Sharon, this is good. You deserve happiness. You deserve love. Don't feel guilty for accepting it. But guilt was exactly what Sharon felt. Not about Brandon or the baby or the love that had grown between them. But about the contract that still technically bound them. About the fact that she was supposed to be a surrogate and nothing more. She'd become so much more. One night, as they lay in bed, Brandon's hand resting on her growing belly, Sharon finally voiced her fears. What if I'm not enough? After the baby is born, when reality sets in, what if you realize this was all just pregnancy hormones and proximity? Brandon propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at her seriously. Sharon, look at me. Really look at me. She did. This isn't hormones. This isn't convenience. This is love. Real, messy, complicated, beautiful love. And it's not going anywhere. You can't know that. Yes, I can. Because I've had relationships before, Sharon. Plenty of them. Beautiful women, smart women, women who fit perfectly into my world. And none of them made me feel even a fraction of what I feel with you. What do you feel with me? Complete, Brandon said simply. Like all the success and money and accomplishments I worked so hard for finally mean something. Because I get to share them with you. Because I get to build a life with you. Because when I imagine my future, you're in every single moment. Sharon's eyes filled with tears. You're going to make me cry. Happy tears. The happiest. She pulled him down for a kiss, deep and slow and full of promise. I love you. Even though this is crazy and complicated and nothing like what I planned. Especially because it's crazy and complicated, Brandon murmured against her lips. Safe and simple is overrated. Give me crazy and complicated with you any day. They made love slowly, carefully, Brandon treating her like she was made of glass even though she assured him she wouldn't break. After war, as they lay tangled together, Sharon felt more at peace than she had in months. We should probably get new contracts drawn up, she said drowsily. Official parental rights and everything. Already done, Brandon admitted. Sharon lifted her head. What? I had my lawyer draw up new documents 2 weeks ago. Full parental rights for you. Shared custody, decision-making, everything. You're not the surrogate anymore, Sharon. You're the mother. Fresh tears spilled down Sharon's cheeks. You did that without telling me? I wanted it to be ready when you were ready. No pressure. Just there, whenever you wanted it. I want it now, Sharon said fiercely. Show me. I want to sign now. Brandon grabbed his laptop from the nightstand, pulled up the documents, and they read through them together. Legal language that essentially erased the old contract and created a new one. One where Sharon wasn't a temporary vessel but a permanent parent. One where their family was official and legal and real. Sharon signed with shaking hands, and Brandon countersigned, and just like that, everything changed again. We're parents, Sharon whispered, staring at the documents. We're parents, Brandon confirmed, pulling her close. And we're going to be amazing at it. The second trimester was supposed to be easier. Everyone said so. The books, the websites, Dr. Chen. The morning sickness fades, energy returns, the pregnancy glow appears. And it did happen, all of it. Sharon felt better than she had in months. Her body was changing in ways that were impossible to hide now, her belly rounding with obvious pregnancy. She loved it. Loved the way Brandon's eyes lit up every time he saw her. Loved the way strangers smiled at her on the street. Loved feeling the baby move, tiny flutters that grew stronger every day. But with the physical improvements came emotional complications. Sharon's co-workers had started asking questions. She'd kept the pregnancy quiet as long as possible, but at 16 weeks, hiding it was impossible. Who's the father? Maya asked directly over lunch one day. Sharon hesitated. She and Brandon had discussed this, agreed to be open about their relationship, but saying it out loud felt huge. Brandon Irwin, she said finally. Maya's fork clattered to her plate. Brandon Irwin? As in the Brandon Irwin? Billionaire tech mogul Brandon Irwin. That's the one. When did you, Sharon? Maya's eyes were wide. Spill. Now. I want every detail. So Sharon told her. The surrogacy arrangement, how it had evolved, falling in love, moving in together, the new parental rights agreement. All of it. Maya listened with increasing amazement. That's the most romantic thing I've ever heard. It's like a fairy tale. It doesn't feel like a fairy tale, Sharon admitted. It feels real and complicated, and sometimes I still can't believe it's my life. Does he treat you well? He treats me like I'm precious. Like I'm the most important thing in his world. Then who cares about anything else? Maya squeezed her hand. You deserve this, Sharon. After everything you've been through with your mom, after all the times you've put everyone else first, you deserve someone who puts you first. But not everyone was as supportive. Sharon's extended family, aunts, cousins, people she hadn't spoken to in years, suddenly had opinions. They called with concerns disguised as care, asking if she was sure Brandon wasn't just using her, if she'd thought about what would happen when he got bored, if she was prepared for the reality of being with someone so far out of her league. "They mean well," Clara said when Sharon vented about another uncomfortable phone call. "They think I'm an idiot. That I'm going to get my heart broken by some rich man who's just having fun slumming it with the poor nurse." "Are you?" Sharon looked at her mother. "No. Brandon loves me. I know he does. Then that's all that matters. Everyone else can think what they want." But it got to Sharon anyway. The comments, the side eyes, the barely veiled judgment. She started second-guessing everything. Every affectionate gesture from Brandon, she analyzed. Every expensive gift, she questioned. Was this real? Or was she fooling herself? Have you ever felt like this? Like everyone's opinions made you doubt something you knew in your heart was real? Talk to me in the comments. I want to hear your story. Brandon noticed the change. He noticed everything about Sharon. "What's wrong?" he asked one evening when she'd been unusually quiet during dinner. "Nothing." "Sharon. Rule number 1. Honesty. What's wrong?" She sighed. "People are talking. About us. About the baby. Saying things." "What kind of things?" "That you're going to get bored of me. That I'm not from your world and eventually you'll realize it. That I'm just the surrogate you got attached to, but once the baby's here." Brandon's expression darkened. "Who's saying this? Does it matter?" "Yes." His voice was hard. "Because they're wrong. Completely wrong. And I want to know who's putting these ideas in your head." "It's just people. Family. Co-workers. Everyone has an opinion." Brandon stood abruptly and pulled out his phone. "What are you doing?" Sharon asked. "Making sure everyone knows exactly where we stand." He scrolled through his phone, typing rapidly. "Brandon, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." He showed her his screen. It was his social media, millions of followers, a verified account, his entire professional and public life on display. And he'd just posted a picture. One Sharon didn't even know he'd taken, of her asleep on his couch, one hand on her pregnant belly, afternoon light streaming through the windows. She looked peaceful, beautiful, loved. The caption read, "This is Sharon, the woman I love. She's brilliant, strong, and carrying my child. Some of you will have opinions about our relationship, our differences, our unconventional start. I don't care. She's my partner, my family, my future. And I'm done hiding that. Sharon, I love you. Always." Sharon stared at the post, at Brandon's very public declaration, at the comments already flooding in, thousands of them in just seconds. "Brandon, you didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did. I'm tired of people making you doubt us. I'm tired of hiding you like you're some secret. You're not a secret, Sharon. You're my everything. And the whole world should know it." Tears streamed down Sharon's face. What if this makes things harder? The attention, the media. Then we'll deal with it. Together. He pulled her into his arms. "But I won't let anyone, not your family, not strangers, not anyone, make you feel like you're not enough. Because you're more than enough. You're everything." The post went viral within hours. Brandon Irwin, the billionaire bachelor, was in love. The media went crazy. Photographers camped outside the building. News outlets requested interviews. The story of their relationship, surrogate turned love story, was everywhere. It was overwhelming and invasive and everything Sharon had feared. But it was also liberating. Because with everything out in the open, there was nothing left to hide. No more second-guessing. No more wondering if Brandon was serious. He'd literally told the world he loved her. "Are you okay?" Brandon asked that night as they watched the news coverage of their relationship from the safety of his penthouse. "I'm terrified," Sharon admitted. "But also, relieved? Is that weird?" "Not weird at all." He pulled her closer. Now everyone knows. There's no going back. Do you want to go back? Not for a second. Brandon's hand moved to her belly, where their baby was kicking. Stronger now, impossible to miss. This is my life, Sharon. You and this baby. This is what I want. What I've always wanted, I just didn't know it until you walked into my office. Sharon covered his hand with hers, feeling their baby move beneath their palms. I love you. Even though this is crazy and public and everyone has an opinion. Especially because it's all those things, Brandon finished, echoing her words from weeks ago. Safe and boring is overrated. Give me crazy and public with you any day. They sat like that for a long time, feeling their baby kick, watching their story unfold on television, knowing that whatever came next, the media attention, the judgment, the complications, they'd face it together. Because they were a family now. Unconventional and unexpected, but real. And no amount of outside opinion could change that. And that, my friends, is where we're pausing today. 8 parts. 8,500 words. And a love story that's just getting started. What happens next? Will Sharon and Brandon's relationship survive the media scrutiny? What complications await them as the pregnancy progresses? How will they navigate becoming parents together? You'll have to come back for the next parts to find out. But before you go, I need to hear from you. Drop a comment telling me, 1. Are you Team Sharon and Brandon? Or do you think this is moving too fast? 2. What would you do in Sharon's position? 3. Where are you watching from? I love knowing my viewers are all over the world. 4. And most importantly, hit that like button if you're invested in this story. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because trust me, the best parts are still to come. Thank you for being here. Thank you for investing in Sharon and Brandon's story. And thank you to my returning viewers. You know who you are, and I appreciate every single one of you. See you in the next part. Until then, believe in love. Believe in second chances. And believe that sometimes the most unexpected paths lead us exactly where we're meant to be. Stay blessed. Stay beautiful. And stay tuned.